Call your prescriber about vision changes, if you feel your heart racing while at rest, or if you have mental changes. Depression or thoughts of suicide may occur. Common side effects include nausea, vomiting, diarrhea, constipation, stomach pain, flu or upset, headache, feeling tired, dizzy or bloated, gas, and heartburn. Some side effects lead to dehydration, which may cause kidney problems.
With Wegovy,
I'm losing weight.
I'm keeping it off.
And I'm lowering my CV risk.
Check your coverage before talking to your prescriber about Wegovy.
There are some things that work better together, like your workplace benefits and retirement savings. Voya provides tools that help you make the right investment and benefit choices so you can reach today's financial goals and look forward to a more confident future.
Voya, well planned, well invested, well protected.
Here's why you should switch from Google to DuckDuckGo on all your devices. DuckDuckGo comes with a built-in search engine like Google, but it's private and doesn't spy on your searches. And DuckDuckGo lets you browse like Chrome, but it blocks cookies and creepy ads that follow you around from Google and other companies. And there's no catch. It's free. We make money from ads, but they don't follow you around. Join the millions of people taking back their privacy by downloading DuckDuckGo on all your devices today.
Our God calls us!
The Fox News Decision Desk can project that in Maine, Vice President Harris will win the statewide vote. Trump will win an electoral vote in the rural 2nd District in the state of Maine.
Fox News can also project that Maine Senator Angus King will win his race. He's an independent who caucuses with the Democrats. So as we look now, the Senate is ticking up. We're going to look at some interesting races in Ohio and Montana coming up.
So let's check in with Aisha Hasni at the Trump campaign headquarters in West Palm Beach, Florida, where I would imagine the mood is fairly good.
It is very good, Martha. You know, earlier this evening, a lot of folks were coming up to me and saying they're not sure if they're going to get a decision tonight. They thought it was going to take a few days, and that has completely flipped, and people are expecting there to be an answer tonight and it to be favorable for the former president. I just talked to a campaign official who tells me that over in Mar-a-Lago, where former President Trump is right now, watching the results come in, the mood there is positive. And I'm working to confirm right now if the former president made some remarks to a crowd there and what exactly he said, but everyone there appears to be feeling very, very good. And just found out as well that Speaker Mike Johnson, the House Speaker, who's in Shreveport, Louisiana right now at his district, appears to be making plans to come here to be with former President Trump. Back to you.
Aisha, thank you very much. We'll keep a close eye on Trump headquarters as we continue to give you some more updates on what's going on right now. You know, we don't have a call for any new states at this point. We're waiting for Montana, waiting to get a look at the Sheehy race in Montana as well. And we have some new guests who have joined us on the panel that we want to get to. So let's welcome them in.
And as we get ready for the top of the hour, we'll make some new calls at
first, and then we'll get right to you guys. Wow, time is going so fast. There we go.
It is now 11 p.m. in New York, and 4 West Coast states have just finished voting. The Fox News Decision Desk can project that Vice President Harris will win California, the Golden State, 54 electoral votes, biggest prize, more than any other state in the country.
And Fox News can also project that Harris will win Oregon, adding 8 more votes to her Electoral College vote. Harris will also win Washington, another reliably Democratic northwestern state.
But former president will win Idaho's 4 electoral votes. So as we see the race to 270, it's now 216 to 193. Race is changing quickly. I am getting some word from the Democrats who have now put out kind of a sense of the race, saying that in Pennsylvania, they say they're overperforming turnout expectations in Philadelphia and the early vote expectations in Bucks County. They go into state by state of where they feel like they're going to see more votes in these states. These are the blue wall states, because that is the path that we're looking at. In Wisconsin, they say we know there's a significant amount of vote remaining in Dane and Milwaukee counties, and we're seeing signs of strong performance in the WOW counties. We just have partial data. We don't expect complete results from Wisconsin until tomorrow morning between 3 a.m. and 5 a.m. We shall see.
We shall see. California Senate race, as we talked about, can project that the current Democratic Congressman, Adam Schiff, will win his race against former Major League Baseball player Steve Garvey in that Senate race. And Washington's incumbent Democratic Senator Maria Cantwell will win her 5th term. Not big surprises on that front this evening either. So here's the balance of power. In the Senate, 49 for Republicans. The majority is 51. They have flipped 1 seat, 42 for the Democrats as we wait for a number of these big Senate races to be called. Ohio, Montana, Pennsylvania, all will really dictate the future of the Senate.
And Michigan. Let's bring in our panel. Britt Hume, Dana Perino, Harold Ford Jr. They've been here for a while. Kevin O'Leary, Jessica Tarloff, and Ben Domenech. Jessica, are you surprised?
Surprised is a very generous term for how I'm feeling in this particular moment. It is in Democrats' nature to be anxious, and we are certainly at peak anxiousness. I think the conversation that you were having in the last panel about the Latino vote is really interesting. Some of these numbers are a little bit jaw-dropping, looking at, potentially a 45% for Donald Trump in some states, and that is going to cause a real reckoning within the party on how we talk about, message to, and integrate, a huge part of our base typically in all of this. I would say, though, that the campaign and people that I've been speaking to have said nothing has been called. Our paths to 270 have not been blocked off, and as we continue to get more vote in, and I should add to the numbers that they messaged to you, Detroit is coming in, and Detroit had a very good day with in-person voting today, and the suburbs of Atlanta outperforming where Biden was there. One point of concern is that she's not doing as well in the rural areas as Biden did, and that's something that they're paying attention to. But I'm hearing more and more from people that I'm speaking to, blue wall. And this morning we were talking about, well, if you pick up North Carolina and Georgia, again, they're not off the map, but it is feeling like more of that laser focus on the easiest route.
Ben, welcome, first of all. Good to see you tonight. I'm sitting here thinking about the rethink that Republicans went through after Mitt Romney lost. Mm-hmm. And they did this huge analysis of what was going wrong with the Republican Party and why they weren't reaching Hispanic voters, why they couldn't reach working class voters, why they weren't bringing in more women. And it really is stunning when you think about that. That was Mitt Romney's loss. And it appears that the person who has changed that calculus dramatically is Donald Trump.
Well, they called it an autopsy at the time, and I think it's turned out to be an autopsy for a party that was dead. And I think that Donald Trump has done something incredible in resurrecting it with a new coalition that, a lot of people never thought Republicans were going to be able to reach, that they weren't going to be able to cut through a lot of these different fundamental problems that people thought were there in order to reach these different sets of the electorate. And look, I think the big question they have to be asking is how much of that is tied to Donald Trump himself and how much of it is something that the Republican Party going forward can build on. And regardless of whatever ends up happening here tonight and tomorrow morning in terms of these blue wall states and the things that we take away from it, certainly we can take away this is the most incredible political comeback that we've seen since 1968. It's the most incredible remaking of the Republican coalition that we've seen in a way that was really unexpected by all but a handful of people. And how they build on that, how they choose to prioritize policies going forward, could make a big difference in whether they're able to hold on to it in the future or whether it's something that goes away if Donald Trump isn't at the top of the ticket.
Kevin O'Leary, Mr. Wonderful. The markets now have it at 92.5% for Donald Trump winning this election to Kamala Harris at 7.0%. You're a market guy. How do you read this?
I'm going to stay on this theme for a moment and call this perhaps the greatest night the Democratic Party can ever have if they lose. And let me explain that. I was very troubled just over 100 days ago when they circumvented the democratic process and anointed somebody. The analogy is easy to a Super Bowl. You arrive at the Super Bowl game, and by any measure, this is the Super Bowl of global politics, the presidential race. Your quarterback, Biden, is injured. He's taken out of the game. You don't bring a quarterback in that's never, ever, ever won any game anywhere. You run a process. And they missed that opportunity. This is a chance for them to, I'm not saying they're going to lose, but I'm going to those percentages and saying, they get to reboot. They get to go back to the center. They get to scratch this whole thing, and the influences of a Schumer or a Pelosi or a movie star or an Obama deciding to anoint somebody, those guys are gone in 4 years. They won't have that kind of influence. This could be great for America because I'm an investor. I have to work with who's ever in the White House in January. But I care about policy. And when I hear policies coming out of a party that are so twisted against the American way of life, like basically taxing capital gains that are unrealized, that's not America. Or price controls, that's not America. 28% tax rate takes us to the bottom quartile of competition. That's bad. We can't do that. That would hurt the country. And all I do is work with entrepreneurs that want to build businesses. There's a reason people come here under barbed wire and drown in rivers to get into America. It's the American dream. It's the only thing the president has to do is to maintain it. Those policies are against the American dream. And I have nothing against Harris. I mean, look, she did a masterful job in getting to where she is. It would be good for them to lose tonight. It would reset and reboot and get that party back to the center. It would be good for them. They may not want to hear that.
We don't.
But they may have to. You may have to deal with it. You may have to.
Kevin, I would love to win and do the reboot. We can still do those things. We'd bring you right into the party to help us do it.
We're going to take a pause right here because we have a big call to make right now.
We do indeed. The Fox News Decision Desk can now project that Republican businessman Bernie Moreno, who started his entrepreneurial career in the car company and buying auto shops in Ohio, has won and unseated incumbent Democratic Senator Sherrod Brown, who has been an Ohio institution for a lot of years. This is an important flip for Republicans. The party is edging closer to an outright Senate majority tonight, and there are still a couple of places yet to be heard from.
Right. Now, think about this. Now, if the Democrats would somehow hold on to the John Tester seat, that would be a different math. But as you look at the balance of power in the U.S. Senate, is this Moreno speaking right now? Can we go in there?
Let's listen in for a couple minutes here.
Look, today starts a new wave. You know, we talked about wanting a red wave. I think what we have tonight is a red, white, and blue wave in this country. Because what we need in the United States of America is leaders in Washington, D.C. that actually put the interests of American citizens above all else. We're tired of being treated like second-class citizens in our own country. We're tired of leaders that think we're garbage. And we're tired of being treated like garbage. You know, my opponent talked a lot about helping the working man. And I will agree with him on the need to help working Americans. But the difference is talk without action is nothing. So what we're going to do, thanks to now having a Republican majority, by the way, how about that, in the United States Senate, and Chuck Schumer, if you're watching, thanks for the help in the primary, but you're fired, buddy. This is a new dawn of Republican leadership. With President Trump and J.D. Vance in the White House, we are going to advance an agenda that is an American agenda. An agenda that says we are pro-immigration, but not pro-invasion. We're going to make certain that the people who come to this country are invited here like I was, like my family was, on our terms. We're going to make this country an energy-dominant nation so that my kids do not grow up in a country where we ever rely on a foreign nation for energy ever again. And we have that energy right here in Ohio. That means coal, that means natural gas, it means oil, and it means nuclear. And in terms of EV mandates, they need to be gone first thing in January.
Bernie Moreno, the winner in the U.S. Senate seat in Ohio. This is a major pickoff for an incumbent senator in Sherrod Brown that ran ads that said he was at least working with former President Trump. He ran heavily on the issue of abortion and thought that they were going to make headway there. There were all kinds of polls, including the one we talked about earlier, that had Democrats fired up about women in the Midwest. Sherrod Brown won in 2006, 2012, and 2018. He was pro-labor. They thought he was safe at the beginning. This race was well run by Bernie Moreno, and this puts them closer to a Senate majority. He said it is a Senate majority. There's still the possibility that Jon Tester holds on in Montana, although he was behind going in. Deb Fischer in Nebraska, we're still watching that race very closely. But if they hold all of those, you could have a scenario where you're looking at 52-48, 53-47.
You absolutely could. And it's worth pointing out that these Senate candidates, if he is one of a few, potentially, as Brett just said, they all closed very strong. I mean, these races were not considered competitive. You didn't see them on TV a lot because they weren't really considered to be in the game, but they are closing very strong, and we're going to keep an eye on all of them as they do. It's interesting to point out, his family immigrated here from Colombia, and, he talks about the American dream, about immigrating here, and it raises questions about how immigrants feel about immigration, because he is very much in favor of closing the border.
Yeah, his brother was the ambassador.
There's a lot on that. Garrett Tenney, our reporter in the Midwest, he's done a couple of pieces for us on a couple of small towns, one in Ohio and one in Indiana, that were completely just doubled overnight almost by immigrants. And he talked to families who have kids who are like, they can't even go to school anymore. They dropped out because nobody could be taught anymore. No one can find a place to live. I'll be very interested to see what Sandra Smith pulls out of that state of Ohio. Now, Donald Trump ran very strong in Ohio, and that helped Bernie Moreno as well. It will probably help Deb Fischer. I think it even helped Ted Cruz. Even though I think Ted Cruz was always going to win, it helped him win by a larger margin. Another point is, Sherrod Brown has been there forever. Incumbents usually win. But this past 4 years has seen a remarkable amount of incumbents all around the world, up and down the ticket. You think of what happened to the Conservative Party, the Tory Party in the UK. They lost everything because there was just throw the bums out type election, and Kamala Harris is basically weighed down by the Biden administration, and she still couldn't come up with something that she would change, and I think people are reacting to that.
And once again, you have a state like Ohio where Sherrod Brown was able to hang on, even though it has been basically a red state for quite some time. And sometimes the migration of this kind of party move in a state takes a little while, takes a couple cycles.
Surprised by this one?
That Sherrod Brown, there were a lot of Democrats who thought like you thought, at the way you posited the question, that he's held on for a long time, he's running tough races, and that he had appealed to enough Republicans over the many years. But Moreno was a great candidate for them. He hung in there, and what it goes to show also is this issue of energy security. It's going to be interesting to see how this continues to play out in Pennsylvania this evening. Ohio and Pennsylvania both, and even Montana, where energy is a big, big issue. These three Democrats may have run up against a challenge here that they can't overcome.
This shows you a little bit of break in the blue wall. If Ohio's 10 points and Bernie Moreno takes off Sherrod Brown, don't you, as you're looking at Wisconsin, Michigan, and Pennsylvania, say there are similar issues in these states?
That's what I'm saying. No, I don't. Brett, the answer is a resounding, unfortunate for me, yes. I think you can begin to see that where that crack could come, if not a whole collapse.
Let me make one last point. $161 million spent on the Bernie Moreno race by the Senate Leadership Fund. McConnell's basically the pact to keep the Senate majority, $161 million.
And in part, that's because they understand if we have one more of these things flip, think about what that does to the Supreme Court and the decisions that will be made by some of the justices
and
there.
we're, what, 1 seat away from a majority for the Republicans, and Republicans have been counting as if it were a done deal all along on Montana Senate, where there's very little vote in, which I think is the reason it's too early to call. Not too close to call, because at this hour, Bill, according to what you just showed me on that map over there, that wonderful map of yours, Jon Tester's the Democrat Jon Tester, Democratic incumbent, is well behind with only, 6% in.
Yeah,
but
it seems like
he's down,
just getting going a little bit there, right?
Yeah, 14 points. But I mean, that's in line with what has been the expectation.
But listen, if you look at Ohio, it's the similar issues to Mike Rogers in Michigan. And there's similar issues in Pennsylvania for David McCormick. We're going to take a quick break right here. The race to 270 slowly taking shape. 270 is the electoral votes needed to win. The vote count changing by the minute. Check out that popular vote. Check out the popular vote. Our special coverage continues after this.
Election Night on Fox News Channel is brought to you by Simply Safe Home Security. There's no safe like Simply Safe.
Grr. Modern home security, my tale. What's Simply Safe got that I don't?
24/7 monitoring that acts on an alarm in 5 seconds to help stop crime in real time.
Stop. This is Simply Safe. Police are on their way.
Plus no contracts, ever.
Maybe Simply Safe and I could work together.
Scaredy cat.
There's no safe like Simply Safe.
The votes are in. The next president of the United States is...
My kingdom does not belong to this world. Repay to Caesar what belongs to Caesar, and to God what belongs to God.
Jesus, we trust in you. Amen.